I'd like to welcome you guys to this week's report. We got through Hurricane Hillary in one piece here. There was a little bit of rain, a little bit of wind, not a lot of rain. Didn't seem like that much here in Long Beach, just kind of rained steadily all day. Not too much happened on the ocean. We had a little bit of southeast wind on Sunday afternoon, I think it was, and didn't do too much damage overall. The water along the coast, I think, got a little bit rolled over in certain areas. But it was already rolled over in others, as I'll talk about in a little bit, so that's not that big of a deal. And hopefully we should be on the road to recovery. But there hasn't been a lot of coverage since the hurricane, except for the offshore stuff, so I'm not going to break down all different regions. I'm just going to talk about inshore and offshore fishing today. Inshore, starting off with, I mean, from Santa Barbara down to San Diego, there's good inshore fishing when the water's not messed up, and it might be still this weekend, but it'll get back to normal pretty quick, I think. Sand bass fishing is still good. They're catching fish up in Ventura. They're catching fish in the Santa Monica Bay. Consistently getting limits at Long Beach and Huntington Beach areas. I know the 3/4 day boat, the Victory, has just been limits day after day after day. And Native Sun and some of the other boats that are fishing that regularly, Enterprise, City of Long Beach, they're just consistently catching fish. Boats out of Newport are coming up that way and catching them as well. The boats out of Dana Point are having good sand bass and calico bass fishing, as are the boats out of San Diego. And I think that once that water gets straightened back up down there, the yellows should be biting on the coast again like they were. Now, you know, it may seem strange that we have a cold water from a hurricane, basically tropical storm coming through, but what happened, and it happens a lot of times, well, we had two major upwellings here before the hurricane. The stuff up, you know, from, I'm going to say Dana Point up to the Santa Monica Bay upwell really dropped off. And the stuff down off Punta Banda rolled over as well. And both those spots are very prone to cold water upwellings during the summer. And I think what happened is when that hurricane came up, that uphill current that was running anyway brought that cold water from Punta Banda up along the coast into the San Diego area. So I think that shouldn't be around too long. I'm not exactly sure what happened along the beach in Long Beach and Huntington and you know, all the way down the coast to Dana, but that water temp really dropped. I was out Saturday before the storm, and water that had been in the low 70s a week ago was as low as 62 degrees. And this is pre-storm, and the fish didn't really like it. In fact, it probably took, we had 3 guys fishing, me, Matt, and Chris Oakes, and we probably took us, I don't know, 2.5 hours before we caught one. We had a couple bites. You know, we're really limiting ourselves by fishing these baits that are only on the surface. I'm sure you could drop something down, swim it in a lead head or a hookup bait or something like that and had plenty of bass, but we're trying to catch them the way we want to fish. We actually ended up having to desert the area that they've been biting for the last month and a half and go look in shallow where we were catching them back in April and May when the water was colder. And we were lucky enough to find fish in that zone and get some bites, make a day of it. But it was definitely tough fishing. You have a little video I'm going to share, but you know, it's one of the things I notice all the time, and I don't really talk about it. Even in that cold water, we saw some bass boiling and chasing bait at different times. And you know, wherever you're fishing, but especially if you're fishing around kelp, you should really have your head on a swivel the whole time you're fishing, because in this situation, in this video, Matt is just in the bow casting, and he's looking towards the shoreline. We're sitting about 12 or 13 feet of water. And I'm not actively fishing right then. I just got done maneuvering the boat. I'm just standing there, and I see a bait fish get chased. Jumps out of the water 2 or 3 times off the bow. Matt was looking the other way. He didn't see it. I ran up and made a cast. He actually saw it where I was pointing, and he cast where I was pointing, but I realized the bait fish was moving. And I put a cast up ahead of it and immediately got bit. It's kind of hard to see the bait fish in the video, but I'll put a little arrow on there. Hopefully you can see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but you erect it, shine erect. That's the pleat of the pants. Very unflattering. Optical illusion. Wow. There's a fish. Oh yeah.
Best in the business right there.
Inshore specials.
Those followers are these fuckers though.
We're not schooling. I'm just happy to see a few.
Yeah. Already a couple more we did last week. Hey. Something chasing bait right there.
Called your shot there. I knew something was going on. I haven't seen Eric move that quick in a while.
Yeah. I watched that fucking bacon chase. That missed the cast.
Yeah, nice.
Good one.
Woo,
A real one?
son.
Yeah, so if you're going to go out inshore fishing this weekend, honestly, I think your best bet is to go sand bass fishing if you're a private boater. Any of the reefs and wrecks and hard bottoms and stuff should have bass on them. If you're fishing a bigger piece of structure like Iser's Reef or one of Newport Pipe or Buccaneer Pipe down in San Diego or one of the spots up in the bay, you want to look around for bait balls on the meter, which is tight spots of bait, as opposed to trying to find bass marks. So most things you think are bass marks are actually perch. So I rarely mark bass when I pull up on a spot. They will get under the boat, and whereas perch seem to look more like horizontal lines on your fish finder, feeding bass will be arcs because their fish are swimming up and down and chasing bait around. So something to keep in mind if you're fishing that deep water structure. Today's Thursday. Tomorrow morning, maybe a late start, maybe launch around 8 or 8:30 or so and go fish PV again, see if it's gotten any better. Probably just got to beat my head against the wall again, but I don't know. We're going to give it a shot. Yeah, so lots of good inshore fishing options. Even with the colder water, the deeper spots where the sand bass are and stuff, they're not really too affected by that. I haven't heard anything from the Coronados. I know they had good fishing down there before the hurricane, but I'm sure that water rolled as well. And again, that may take a few days to recover. So let's head offshore. The areas that are biting have really shrunk up here, and I don't know if it's because boats are getting dialed in areas consistently, or if there's less pressure and guys are going, or less amount of boats out there, but guys are going for the sure thing. But basically, the best bluefin tuna bite in town is that stuff out of Cortez, Tanner, and now Cherry Banks. Cherry Banks is a spot we used to go fish rock cod all the time when I was younger. And the high spot there comes up, I think, around to 400 something feet. But I guess those bluefin are associating with that, and I don't see why they wouldn't. It's just like any other piece of structure. But it seems like some areas have the bigger bluefin, and some areas have the smaller bluefin mixed with yellowtail. And I'd imagine that the yellowtail and tuna are coming out of an area like Tanner or Cortez, where it's shallower, and they're actually associating to much shallower structure. But it seems like boats are getting a mix of yellows and occasional dorado and the smaller bluefin, or they're catching all big ones. And a lot of those big ones are still biting at night. And if you're going to do a trip out there, the way that fishing is, you want to be at least on a 2 or 2.5 day trip to take full advantage, or a 3 day. You go on a 1.5 day trip, you're not going to get out there in time for their first night bite, unless they do a reverse 1.5 day trip. I know the Eldorado was doing that, or a reverse overnight trip, or whatever it was early in the season. But they were out there this week with a Stockton fishing charter. They had really good fishing at night and also during the day. Boats like the Thunderbird have been getting out there really consistently and catching fish. And a lot of the long-range boats, the San Diego boats, are coming up this way too. I mean, there's dozens of boats out there some days, and that's kind of far for skiffs. So that's the nice thing, is that they have it to themselves, except for the 4-pack boats and the guys with the Freemans and stuff like that are running out and catching them on flying fish pretty consistently still. There's also fish up foaming in areas, but these bigger fish, a lot of guys aren't casting into them, or they're casting them and they're sorry about it. I know my friend Pat, who works in the Aloha Spirit, went out on his boat and found some bluefin outside of Santa Cruz there, and they got a real nice one, but he messed me. He said, fish that size are a lot of work when you catch them on casting. I don't disagree at all. I prefer not to cast on those things now myself, but that option's still around. You know, if you wanted to do some run and gun stuff, that area up there might be a good stretch, you know, zone to go out of, weather permitting. You know, launch out of Santa Barbara or Ventura and just take a look out that way, and you know, you can find your own stuff. I'm sure there's fish in other places. There's just not a lot of coverage up here right now. There were fish, you know, between Cat and Clemente. There were fish on the front side of Cat. There were fish below Cat. I'm sure there's some fish down below Clemente. You just need to go out and find them and drive around. I don't know that this weekend will be ideal for doing that in a small boat. There's a little bit of wind in the forecast out there. It's not horrible, but you know, it's not ideal glassing weather while running around. There's some marlin around up here as well. I know in 2 weeks we have the Master Angler Billfish Tournament out of Balboa, England. I think it's in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, one of the two. But yeah, that, you know, that's probably have a chance to catch no marlin. I'm sure there'll be some guys out there looking around this weekend. The boats out of San Diego are having still some boats getting good kelp patty fish, and they're getting yellows and dorado, and some tuna. Not as much, you know. I know Seasons and the Lucky Bee were both out there this weekend and had big dorado, nice sized yellows. I mean, it's good fishing if you can find the right patty. Sport boats, you know, it's hit and miss for those guys. I don't know if you guys saw Tony's report, but like earlier this week, or let me backtrack, before the hurricane or tropical storm came through, I know San Diego had a bunch of bluefin one day. So I think it's just those fish reorganizing. There's no reason they should be gone entirely. I'm surprised there's not more yellowfin sliding up this year. It seemed like we had a pretty good push on them, but it doesn't really seem to be anything down there backfilling that. And I'm not sure if the Mexican seiners are fishing yellowfin or what's going on, but it seems like that tap, you know, just kind of dried up. So I don't know. I think the bluefin will stick around for a while. Should be like any normal year until that water drops dramatically and we start having some storms. You know, we're a week away from Labor Day, so that'll take a lot of the pressure off the water, and you know, guys that have their own boat go out there and stretch their legs a little bit without worried about getting chopped up by the Mad Mac Brigade, because I think a lot of those guys are fair weather summertime fishermen anyway. But I guess that's it. Can't really think of anything else to cover, but I hope you guys all have a great weekend and good luck if you fish.